Okay, this old 2008 Mazda, you can hear the compressor cycling on and off as the engine idle goes up and down. And we got 35.5 degrees is coming out of the dash, so we're getting nice and frosty there. And so that's good to go. This was an R12, and I went over that in the old vehicle, and I told you what the recommendations and hoses got replaced, but receiver dryer did not get replaced. So right now I'm just finding the lowest temperature. I'm data recording it. You say every time it drops down to 36 degrees, 35.9, 36.1, 36.1, right around there, that's where the temperature sensor disengages the compressor. So we're going through the loops and we're going down to 36 degrees. And you can see the temperature sensor right there in the dash. Our outdoor ambient temperature is 73 degrees. And so our super heat, now you can't look at subcooling because I'm not hooked up to the high side. This is the low side. I just have them both open. And I'm only connected to the low side. And you can see got a condensation going on there on the line. We have a clear sight glass. And of course, I always tell you guys, don't use the clear sight glass method, especially on conversions. Occasional little bubbles I could see every now and then. What else about this one? That's about it. I think this is a done deal. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay. That sounds like a sick alarm going off. Oh, this is what I like. So, the customer has a humidity and temperature gauge in his car. And so we know this is coming out at 35 degrees Fahrenheit right here. The cabin air that is being mixed here inside the cabin, it's down to 56. Oh, I see it says stereo on. That's what that was. I don't want that. Okay, how do I turn this thing off? All right, so we're 56 degrees in the cabin of the vehicle. Humidity's at 61%, 62% in the cabin, and I have it on minimum right now. Let's take it off recycle and take the outside hot air that's coming over the engine, and it'll be sucked in through the fresh air cowl with the hood open. Put a heat load on the evaporator, and we will watch the extended times go out of not being able to reach 35 degrees Fahrenheit anymore, because now we're going to put a heavy load of hot air from the engine into the evaporator. So let's come back here and you'll see that change. You see the pattern different? This is on recycle mode, and it keeps going down to 35, 36 degrees constantly. Now, are we clear there? Did it focus? There we go. So this is in recycle mode, and now we're in fresh air mode. 43 degrees. Now we're pulling in the air. This hot air is getting sucked in right there because we have the hood up. So let's see what the temperature of this hot air is. Let's get this. Let's go down to the intake. And way down here. Okay, there we go. So now I'm all the way into the intake where this air is being drawn in, and we get to see what the temperature of the air going over the evaporator. So there's air right there, 89 degrees. So it's 73 degrees out here, and 89 degrees is between the mix So you pull up air like from under here, it's open up right here. It pulls in cooler air right here. You got a little cool air right here, a little warm air mixing right here. And so between the 73 degrees and this out here that feels like it's 100 degrees or so, by the time it gets and it mixes, it's 89 degrees and going up because this engine temperature is getting hotter. So we're up to 95 degrees and climbing because the coolant's still getting hotter, the engine's still getting hotter, so the load over the evaporator is getting hotter. So we're at 95 and 48. So if we call them even, say 45 to 95, and we say we have a 50-degree split from the outside ambient air load over the evaporator to what's coming out of the dash. Look at our superheat, it has dropped because there's a load over the evaporator. It's working harder. It's no longer cycling. See, before it was cycling and you could not get a steady superheat. The superheat was going up and down, up and down. You had nothing steady. Now we're under a heavy load because we have the exhaust manifold heat and the radiator heat being taken in at the evaporator. But this would not be your true readings if we had a high side. Say we had a high side of 250 psi because I have the hood up and I'm hitting it with a false load. If I wanted to check the correct, and I would do it at a higher idle because this was a fixed piston compressor. So you close the hood and then take your measurements, not with your measurements over. Because so if it was 105 degrees outside and this was a hot engine completely heated up, we would probably have 130 or 40 degree air going over the evaporator. It'd give you totally wrong readings. Whatever you read would be wrong. Whatever you're trying to jerk off the jerk off can and add some more or take out some more would all be wrong, because you'd be getting a wrong reading of the ambient air that would not be realistic in real world operating conditions. The hood would be down and you would not be taking this engine air into the evaporator. You'd be taking the fresh outside 100 degree ambient air over the evaporator. This is where all the top off jerk off guys get it all wrong. What else can I show? Okay, well, I got more to do. This is it for today on videos, and I got to get running. See you guys. $52 degrees coming out the dash. So as you see, as that air temperature climbs, you see that air temperature climbing? 52 degrees, 103 degrees. So as the outside ambient temperature climbs, the inside dash temperature climbs right along with it. Now it'll keep going kind of linear and tracking it pretty steady, but it'll get to the point where it gets beyond where it can compensate and you have flashed off all the possible refrigerant and it cannot do any more work. And then you'll see, you'll see this come to a peak, but what you'll start to see here is this go up really fast because you can't do any more work, and so your duct temperature will just start spiking up. So it'll go to the point to where the straw that broke the camel's back, it'll go into like thermal runaway, and all of a sudden you'll see the duct dash temperature shoot up in the air. And I see this with the guys with the hoods open on really hot days, and they can't figure out, why is my dash temperature not good? And they're here with the hood up, they have it, they're doing the test with the doors open and stuff like that, but that's what it's called. They're bringing in 160 degree air. Of course it's not going to be like your readings on your, you go to Toyota, or if you go to GM or Ford or Chrysler or anybody and they have the temperature pressure and what it should or should not be. Shit, you put 160 degrees on top of the evaporator, you won't meet it. Or if you're using the jerk off can method and topping off and trying to reach the pressure, you're going to achieve that pressure much sooner before you're actually filled, because that high side pressure will be up so much because you're loading the evaporator. And that's what's wrong with this industry. No education. See you guys.